Welcome back to ET with GOTB. The Adobe Women's FA Cup semi-finals have been decided and it is Spain on the horizon once again for England. Let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Okay, this Easter weekend saw 4 Adobe Women's FA Cup quarterfinals take place and only one partial mini kind of cup set, if you like, out of the 4.
It was a cup set.
Yeah. We are going to chat about each of those games, plus WSL 2 is edging ever closer to its exciting end, and we'll see how this weekend and this week's results have impacted their table, plus another international break is upon us. We'll look at what's ahead for England, Ireland and the home nations. You're still going to give us a player of the week?
Yep.
You're still going to shine a spotlight on something?
Okay.
You sound really confident. But before we get into that, this is your weekly reminder to make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this week's action. Leave us a review if you like as well. And do make sure you're following us across all of our socials. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything. FA Cup, done and dusted. Perhaps not loads of excitement in terms of some of the games we attended. I think everyone was very tired, even the teams that haven't played all that much. Yeah.
Or have played comparatively less. I think it just felt like a very tired weekend of football.
Well, if you were living under a rock, these are the results. Arsenal 0, Brighton 2, Haley and Hayes with the goals. Charlton 0, Liverpool 1 after extra time, with Zara Shaw getting the winner. Chelsea 2, Tottenham 1, Kerr, Berman and Sumanen with the goals. And Birmingham City 0, Manchester City 1. The other Shaw, Bunny Shaw, getting that goal there. So, yes, you're saying Arsenal-Brighton is a cup set. You're very firm about that.
I am.
Even though Arsenal got knocked out at the same stage last season by Liverpool and it's another WSL team.
Yeah, I still think it's an upset. I think everyone probably expected Arsenal to go through that one. Especially the form that Arsenal have been in recently. I do think, and this is not an excuse for Arsenal and it's nothing to take away from Brighton, but I do think Arsenal were extremely tired. And you could tell that even though Renee Slegers ran the rotations, I think you could tell that there's been through an emotional couple of weeks at the club in terms of Champions League, 2 big games in the leagues, and they're coming to the end of the block, and I think you could just tell there were a few exhausted people out there. I think Mariona in particular looked very, very tired, and I think that is the problem with some of the squad depth that they have at Arsenal, but also the fact that, of course, as was the right decision to make, but Cara Cooney-Cross is still in Australia with a family, which is really important for her to be there. But it does mean that Arsenal have been left pretty short in the midfield area. And even without that, they were short, I think, because they've had to rely on Kim Little and Mariona Kiladente so much. And Kim Little is brilliant, but she is getting older, and Mariona has just been playing every minute almost under the sun. And she expends so much energy during a game, so no wonder she just looked a bit on her last legs, I think.
Brighton recognised that.
I think Brighton recognised a lot of things. I think they recognised the emotional level of the opponent, the physical level of the opponent, but also the conditions with which they were playing in. It was very windy. The pitch at Meadow Park was not great, and don't even get me started on those match balls. But that was the same. It is no excuse for Arsenal. It's the same across the whole of the fixtures. It just looks terrible.
I was impressed to see Brighton's kind of ruthlessness in that situation, where they knew if they started quickly, pressed high quickly, put Arsenal under the cosh a little bit, that they could get something from it. And I think, and I said this on up front, it reminded me of the way Aston Villa started against Chelsea last week, where they went in quick and Chelsea weren't switched on and Arsenal weren't switched on, and I was really impressed we know Brighton like to press high. We also know that Brighton like to play out from the back as well, and sometimes they're under pressure when they face a high press, but they like to press high, and they did that well from the get-go. They had early chances through Cankovic, and I think that probably gave them a lot of confidence. And what I liked was that they didn't kind of then back off in the second half. I think they knew that they had a goal or two or more in them, and they kept that intensity high in the second half on Arsenal. I just don't think Arsenal ever really got the foothold they would have wanted in the game.
I think they showed it in the game against Arsenal earlier this season. They lost it 1-0. I think it was just an Ola Stagger's own goal early on in the game that lost it for them at the Emirates. But they showed in that game how good they are at activating the press, and how they do have a game plan to play a team like Arsenal. And that midfield duo of Cankovic and Maisie Simons, they work really hard together to close down the spaces and operate as a team. I think getting the Japanese internationals back, obviously Kiko Seika talks for herself, she scores almost every game. And she is now providing a goal-scoring outlet, which I still think is an issue for them.
Yeah.
They don't have many goals within the team. I think that was one of Madison Haley's first of the season, if not the first. So they don't have
a goal it was, by the way.
Brilliant goal. But they don't have many goal scorers amongst the team. They really, really miss Michelle Jamang up front. Obviously, she probably wouldn't have played in this game anyway, but the point still stands. They don't have a recognised number 9 who's of the level where they need them to be. But they do have really good players. I think being able to bring Minami back as well, put her into the back line and send Venegas over to the full-back position, just is more it's less square peg round holes. It's more suitable to their strengths. So it could allow them to push Maricel de Slagers up. So there was a bit more pace and pressing and stuff. So I think they got the tactics spot on. Dario Vidicic said that when they saw the conditions, they decided to go a bit more direct rather than try and build up too much possession. And it worked a treat, and they were the team on the day who performed the best and who adapted the best to the scenarios.
And I know we've spoken about Ndozi in goal before. We've spoken about her potentially being one of the signings of the season, and she had another great game between the sticks. I've seen some media saying, she's the underlooked, often unspoken about. I'm like, maybe you guys don't speak about her a lot because you're not covering as many of the games further down the table always, but we've been singing her praises since the get-go.
Yeah, I think she's right up there for goalkeeper of the season. And I think, especially when you look around, yes, Hannah Hampton, but Hannah Hampton's been having a bit of an iffy period of late since probably the turn of the year.
Ndozi keeps you on your toes, can I just say that?
Yeah, Arsenal keep changing their keepers, so how do you pick one? So I do think, and Tullis Joyce is great, but she's not brilliant with her feet at times. So her distribution can let her down at that point, as can Ndozi's.
Ndozi goes off on the odd adventure every now and then, and it really keeps things exciting.
9 times out of 10 it works.
It works, but it keeps it exciting where sometimes you're like, Jesus, where's she gone? She's out of the box. And
if she hadn't saved that Smilla Humbug shot in the first half, it would have been a different story. So she was crucial. I know they had chances early on, but that was a really big opportunity from point blank range. It was a big save. If Arsenal had scored at that moment, I think they would have gone on to win the game. I don't think Brighton would have been able to find a way back into it, but it kept it level, kept Brighton's foot in it, and they could just build on those foundations as they worked through the phases.
I think it wobbled Arsenal even more to create and not score. And we've seen in previous, earlier on in the season when that would kind of get under their skin or in their heads a little bit. And I think, like you say, had they scored, maybe a different story, but not scoring it, they then go, oh God, and you just see them kind of have that little bit of a wobbly panic moment. But
let's just mention Fran Kirby, but I am going to come back to her.
Okay, well, it gives you a little bit of a hint as to what might be coming later. But yes, 2 assists for Fran Kirby, knows how to play against Arsenal, knows how to beat Arsenal, and did it again this weekend. So that's all I will say. We'll come back to it, maybe. Okay, the other game, not that day, yes, that day that we went to, was Charlton versus Liverpool, which went to extra time. You said it was the footballing gods knowing we had Easter dinner that night with your family. So obviously went to extra time.
It was a classic, I think. A pure classic.
Of football?
Yeah.
In what way?
I'm being incredibly sarcastic right now.
Oh, sorry, Jesus. I was like, because that's not what I remember, because I was also there. Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting game. Liverpool, dominated in the stats. They created 26 shots. Did it feel like that?
No, not really.
Well, there you go. Apparently they did.
Were 5 of them in the build-up to the goal?
maybe that I did wonder, because I was thinking,
given it hit the post twice and then was cleared off the line and then went in the back of the net.
That explains a lot. Oh my God, that's where at least 5 of those shots came from. Because I did wonder, like, I was at the game and I don't remember feeling like they had created 26 shots. But yeah, that makes more sense. Maybe every corner was counted as a shot as well. Please enlighten our listeners about what the game was like.
It wasn't great. Charlton defended well. They did. They had a back five, and they were really, really good and disciplined about protecting their central areas in particular. And Liverpool had made a few changes. They really missed Kerry Holland as well, who was not there on the day. So they showed what a force she is. But I think also there were a few changes. But Charlton just marked them really well and closed down the gaps. They had 9 behind the ball at most points in the game, and tried to hit them on the counter attack if they could get away. But that was pretty much the setup of Liverpool coming at them and them defending it.
I did message you saying I think Kerry Holland would tear this game up, and you agreed. And then after a few changes in the second half, I messaged you in like capital letters going, "Bring on Kerry Holland," and you were like, "She's not here." And then I was like, "Why not?" I hadn't even noticed. But yes, I do think that was a game that someone like her could have kind of pulled apart a little bit.
And she's just like the engine of this Liverpool team at the moment. And he also, like, obviously changing a few things around, but I think Alejandra Bernabé's been brilliant in recent weeks, especially that partnership that she's developing with Kerry Holland down that left-hand side. And but neither was, well, Alejandra came on in the second half, but neither were playing, neither started, and I think it was just a bit disrupted. Denise O'Sullivan missed 2 big opportunities in the first half. The second one was harder to miss than to score.
I got a great shot of it. She was about 2 foot from the goal and put it over, and I think if she did that, 100 times, 99 times out of that, she'd put in the goal. So, just of the 26 shots, 4 were on target, and I think 3 of them were in the lead up to the goal, and 1 of them was the goal. But that's mad to have 26 shots and 4 of them on target. Yes, well, and who was it that scored?
Zara Shaw.
115 minutes.
Zara Shaw, and we are going to talk about her in a bit.
Oh, hey, maybe you should tell me this beforehand so I don't set you up for not to say anything. But 115 minutes we had to wait for a goal, and the one positive out of that was it was the right end for me, because I sat there in the first half literally thinking I was going to get sunburnt, and then I switched ends and thought I was going to freeze to death. So that was the enjoyment of the Valley. Nice stadium.
It was, and it was the highest crowd there for a Wolves game in 20 years.
They had a whole heap of stuff going on pre-match. It was
nice
great.
Fan zone outside.
Yeah. We had a lovely, coffee. Really nice coffee, like
and
proper,
a nice cookie.
And a nice cookie. So yeah, kudos for that. Okay, then the next day we did Chelsea versus Tottenham, which Chelsea won 2-1. Another kind of late goal, 86 minutes. Another kind of special goal. Verla Burman with the absolute rocket. But this was a much more compact-looking Spurs, given the problems they've had in this block of conceding a lot of goals. But it felt like they then kind of sacrificed the threats that they'd had or been known for a bit up front. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it was the right call. And I think I messaged you at half-time. The question is when he takes the handbrake off, because they were 1-0 down at half-time. And I was also saying to you, I think the timing of their equaliser from Evelina Summanen probably...
On the 65th minute.
In a weird way, was bad timing for them, because I do think that if they'd waited 5 more minutes and not got a goal, he would have taken the handbrake off earlier. Instead, they equalised and he just waited a bit too long, I think, to release... Olivia Holt.
You make it sound like she was in a cage, just desperate to get out.
But I think Spurs can be very proud of themselves. I think it's been really clear some of the issues that they've had in recent weeks, conceding that many goals and bringing in Summanen and Spence into the midfield. They kind of acted as that double pivot in midfield, gave the back line a lot of protection. Nilden went into centre-back role with alongside Toka Koga, and she performed pretty well despite getting the early yellow. And I think they managed them pretty well. They managed Chelsea obviously created a fair amount, as they did.
Same number of shots on target.
In the end, yeah. But I think in the first half it was probably more Chelsea than anything. They had more possession, they created more chances, but they were doing pretty well at limiting them. They were limiting Lauren James as well on the ball. They were sticking close to her. They weren't letting her roam as much as she likes to, I think. And they were just looking to keep it calm, keep it tight, and then try and hit them on, I guess, the counter-attack. I think where they let themselves down was their carefulness in possession. There were a few careless mistakes, and I think there were some players just not quite on it. I think, weirdly, cupset just wasn't quite on her game, even though she had the best chance for Spurs at the first half. But and she was doing a lot of work in midfield. I don't think in possession she is quite as good as or quite as sharp as she normally is. And there were a few players, it wasn't just her, who once they turned over possession and had the chance to break, they would trip or
make the
wrong decision or lose possession or just send away with a shot somewhere.
Can I just clarify? Sumanen scored in the 52nd minute. So we'd been chatting about when he was going to go for it, and he probably sat on it a bit longer.
I think if he would have gone in the 60th maybe. If
he brought Holt on at the 70th.
Yeah. So I think he would have gone a bit earlier with Holt, and she did make an impact. I mean, even after Chelsea scored their winner, Tottenham had really big opportunities. There was the one where she drove through the middle and found Tandberg, and her shot literally just went that far wide.
You should have seen Sonia von Pastor on the sideline when that happened.
Having heart attack.
Oh my God.
But I think Chelsea showed enough, and I think they showed what they're about. They certainly created enough. They looked hard, of course they did.
Yeah.
I think some of those players can hopefully do with a break. I'm not sure. I can't remember if Sam Kerr is being called up for Australia. I would hope that she's not been after the Asian Cup. I would hope that she'd been given a bit of a rest. But I think that everyone, now, the beauty of this international break is that there is an extra week.
Yeah.
So that the players will get that extra 7 days of no game to match time, which will hopefully refresh a few legs.
I will say I called the goal because I messaged Sophie and said that there was a goal incoming. You can just feel it, like Chelsea were piling on the pressure in those final few minutes. You just felt like it was coming. I think there was maybe less than a minute between my text and the actual goal, so I was pretty impressed with that. Also, welcome back Ella Morris. Great to see her return from ACL injury, another ACL return.
Important time to come into a game as well. Trying to manage Chelsea coming down that left side with Sandy Multiple.
Straight into the deep end.
But I think, and also, when you concede a goal like that, you kind of just hold your hands up as well.
Berman, wasn't her first Chelsea goal?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a goal, what a time to score it, what a goal it was, absolute rocket. And pure limbs from everybody on the sideline. It was... And
I was saying to Sam, the Chelsea press officer, she is...
Revelation.
Well, one of the two big emerging stars this season. There's been a few, but of the two that I would really highlight is Vela Berman and then Toko Koga, who I thought was absolutely insanely good yesterday. Yeah. There was a block she got on Sam Kerr's shot in the first half where she basically wasn't even, was barely looking at it. She's turned, she stuck out her left leg behind her to block the shot, and it was really, really I thought she did really well.
Okay, final game was Birmingham City versus Manchester City. Very kindly put at 5 o'clock on Monday so we could get home and watch that. Manchester City got the early goal, 8 minutes in. I don't know why I felt like Birmingham had a bit more about them, but then I looked at the stats and I was like, oh, I felt like they had more about them and not necessarily caused Manchester City loads of trouble, but it had some opportunities.
They had a bit about them.
But then when I went to the stats, it was like, oh, they didn't even have a shot on target.
Well, yeah, but they had good build-ups. Yeah. I think Lilia Crossway was in particular very, very bright down that right-hand side, and her deliveries were so good. They just crying out for someone to make the run or to get on the end of them and put them in the back of the net. Keating in goal for City marshalled it pretty well as well. But there were a couple of big moments, I think, for Birmingham City. I think they looked good when Beatrice Sari came on as well. I think for them, they will take a lot of heart from that game. They weren't, everyone would have expected them to be battered by Manchester City. They held their own. They defended very, very well. Shannon Cook, I think, was outstanding, as was Niamh Heron. And they managed to keep City at bay. But when they're thinking about the future, and obviously they're in this race for promotion and the title, they should get promotion. Should they get promotion, they will look at this game and go, well, this is our foundation for next year. How do we now compete in the top division
regularly?
And going off that performance, you wouldn't feel too disheartened by the fact that you're about to, not that you'd feel disheartened about being promoted, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But, it's not like...
It wouldn't worry you.
I think they've got good quality players, and they were out in the summer, and they're on the right trajectory.
I saw some Man City fans saying it was one of their worst performances. I don't think it was quite one of your worst performances. You know, missing a few players, there was a bit of rotation, and the main thing about Man City this season is that even when not at their best, they're winning games, and they're into an FA Cup semi-final, which they'll be delighted about. They are facing Chelsea, and Brighton are facing Liverpool. And to be honest, as a neutral, they were the fixtures I wanted, because it means either Brighton or Liverpool are getting to the final of the FA Cup, which I think is really exciting. So yeah.
And you just can't have a semi-final these days without City and Chelsea facing each other, can you?
It's the fixture we all love to watch over and over and over and over again. Actually, I've quite enjoyed both of them this season, so I actually can't complain. Right, give me your, I think we kind of know where these are going, Player of the Week, please.
Player of the Week, Fran Kirby. I just think she's so good, and maybe because she has injuries, and maybe because she plays for Brighton, who are lower down the table, she doesn't get as much coverage anymore, but she is still absolute quality and class. And for her, Brighton to have a player of her stature and her ability in their team as they try and get to their first final, I think she's been there, she's done it, she's done everything before. She knows exactly how to lead those around her as well, I think. And she has the quality, and she is just an incredible football player. And her 2 assists, and I think the way that she led her team against Arsenal as well showed everything that she's about.
Love that. Okay, and standout moment?
I'm going to go with Zara Shaw. I'm so pleased for her, because she's been out for over a year with her second ACL injury. She's only 18 years old. She's had 2, which is absolutely, I can't imagine. She said, she'd never imagined she'd have to go through the things that she's been through in terms of recovering from those 2 ACL injuries. And she'd only had 45 minutes with the under-21s I think last week against Sheffield United. So she's got to come back in a crucial moment in a cup game where you're about to try and get to the semi-finals, and to come back for the club that you've played for since you were a kid, and to score the goal. I know it was messy, and she admits it was messy, but
doesn't matter.
To have that moment, to have that fairy tale moment and that fairy tale return, I think is very special.
I love that. Playing with them since she was a kid, and she's 18. Okay, WSL 2 results are as follows. Birmingham 1, Sunderland 0. Birmingham scoring in the 93rd minute to get those 3 points. Southampton 5, Sheffield 2, Durham 2, Bristol City 2, Crystal Palace 1, Ipswich 0, and Newcastle 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Now, you will notice that it was Charlton and Portsmouth that didn't play, but they were the ones that always had the extra game on everybody else. Just letting you know now that Sheffield and Ipswich are on 19 games. Everybody else is now on 20 games. So just bear that in mind as I run through the table. Birmingham City are now on top of the table with 41 points. Charlton are in second on 41, but with an inferior goal difference. Crystal Palace are charging up behind on 38 points. They're in third, with Newcastle back and forth on 33 points. And down the bottom, Portsmouth are still on 14 points. Ipswich are above in 11th on 14 points, but with 1 less game played. Durham are in 10th on 16 points, with Sheffield in 9th on 18 points. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like we know who the top 3 teams are going to be. We just don't know what order they're going to be in, which makes it all the more exciting. Who's going to end up... Because no one's really guaranteed to have a spot confirmed. Any one of those teams could end up in the playoff and have to play an extra game. It's exciting.
Yeah, so I think, I imagine it's going to be as it stands, just because when you look at the run-in, Crystal Palace still have to rely on, even on the final day, even if everyone wins their second to last game, Crystal Palace has to rely on that game at the Valley being a draw, I think, to get into the top 2.
Well, if Charlton lose to Birmingham, then Crystal Palace will be on the same number of points as Charlton with with an equal goal difference currently. So they could potentially leapfrog Charlton if Birmingham win.
Yeah, But
Trust
it's complicated.
I looked at it. I did the maths, I think.
But yeah, so I think it's harder for Palace. I think that game at the Valley is going to be unmissable. And down the bottom, I still think Ipswich have the better chance of staying up. I know they've got quite a tricky run, and Sheffield United aren't they are a very tricky team to get past. That's their game in hand. And then it's going to come down to the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think having a game in hand helps.
It's going to be tricky. I think Portsmouth is Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace.
Stop trying to remember everything.
So it's going to be tricky.
All right, Rain Man. Okay, I'm going to very quickly... Champions League semi-finals were decided this week as well. It is Barcelona taking on Bayern Munich, and it is Arsenal facing Lyon again in the semi-finals. We're not going to run through the Arsenal-Chelsea game because we did that on Up Front in an At The Match where Sophie joined me. So rather than repeating all that, I will direct you to that episode. We got to chat to fans from both sets of supporters clubs, and we had a chat in the press box after the match as well. So if you want to find out all about that and our thoughts on it, head over to Up Front. International window is upon us. Another 3-week break. England are facing Spain again, and they're going to be going away to Iceland, which will be their 500th Lioness fixture. We'll be at both of those. I won't be making it to Ireland this time round just because of the way the fixtures fell. I think if Ireland had... I want to see the Spain game, and then I kind of want to go to Iceland as well. So yes, they're the two games.
We've done over a quarter of those 500 fixtures.
Have we?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We've done 177...
Janie Mac.
I think so.
There you are now.
So something like that.
Some recent news with England. Ciara Barry has been called up, which is very exciting because Freya Godfrey is out with a shoulder injury, and Niamh Charles has also been called in, making it a 24-player squad instead of a 23-player squad. So I think valuable for England to have more backup in that full-back position. Ireland will be taking on Poland twice. I think home first, then away. And news there, Jamie Finn, Aoibhinn Clancy and Maria Reynolds have been called in because Lily Agg, Jessie Stapleton and Ava Brennan are out with injury.
Gutted for Lily.
Lily Agg, having just come back from an ACL.
Has done her
Achilles.
ACL.
Or Achilles.
Achilles.
Sorry, her Achilles. I thought you told me ACL.
Yeah.
Oh, Achilles is a painful one.
Yeah.
That took Diana ages to come back.
As she said in her Instagram post, they're literally the 2 worst injuries in football.
Shit. Well, thoughts with you. That is tough, but wishing you a good recovery. I'm not going to say speedy. Wales are playing Albania twice. Northern Ireland are playing Malta twice. And Scotland are playing Belgium twice. How do you feel about playing the same team back-to-back in the same window?
System.
Me too.
I really don't like it. I wish there was a way you could spread them out a bit more.
Is there not? There's 3 teams.
I'm not great at maths. You should be able to. I just don't. I think it puts so much on either fixture. I think if you win the first one, you're more likely to lose the second.
But it should not do it maths because it's 6 games, 3 windows. Just mix them up, no?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't like it.
Well, that's what's happening. I find it interesting whether you play home or away first. Could have an...
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, generally, if it's a bigger team against a lower talent team, the results are the same. But I always think
Ireland-Poland, it's big. For Ireland especially,
Poland.
Both Ireland and Poland are going to see each other as the team that they're most likely to get points off, although Poland has gone and gotten points off the Netherlands. So for Ireland, it makes it all the more important that they get points off Poland. Well, I think it's going to be real tough.
Yeah.
And I know Ireland played well against France and the Netherlands, but I don't know why I feel like the Poland game is going to be more difficult because they expect more.
Of course it can happen. England aren't playing the same team twice in a window, so it can happen. Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
So there are definitely some interesting ones. Belgium's difficult for Scotland.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, that's the one to decide that group, I think, is those 2 games. Especially Scotland going to Belgium, that place is like, they have a hex on that place. They love that place so much. And I think, it's always a tough place to go in front of the crowd.
Absolutely. Any other business? Anything I've forgotten? There probably is. Tell me in the comments if there is. Apologies if there is. We'll be back next week. I think we're going to do it on Wednesday rather than the Tuesday, so that we've actually got some football to talk about because there's no football this weekend. So we're going to the rugby, obviously. Couldn't have a weekend without sport. So join us again a little bit later next week where we will chat through whatever happened with England against Spain at Wembley and all of the other nations that we have just mentioned too. Chat to you then.